and welcome to the MHR Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Emma.
Emma, I want to talk to you about robots.
About robots?
Well, not robots. I want to talk to you about AI again. I know we've talked about it a lot this year, but it's been, I think it's one of the biggest trends or talking points of 2023, right?
It absolutely is.
So, not to say what I say every week, but I've been reading an article.
You haven't.
I have. I've been reading. I've been on the internet learning things, and I saw an article that I thought was really interesting, and I wanted to talk about it today.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to know what that article is?
Please do. Let's proceed.
Right then, I'll give you the headlines, right? So, there is now, from what I've understood from the article, there is now an AI bot that is available for hire by organisations, right? You can hire this bot, and it'll work for you, and you're basically like treating it like it's a normal employee.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Well, that just feels like they're taking over the world.
No, I think so. The point of the article I was reading was they were saying actually that it's about creating or understanding the role in which a company needs to use AI, which supports their staff, or takes the burden from the staff when they could be using their staff to kind of focus on the things that really matter.
Okay.
Interesting, which is stuff we talk about in technology anyway, right? How can technology support your staff to do the best work they need to and remove the burden or remove the grind? So, right, so there's a name for this AI bot, and it is a she, according to the article. Avery Ingram AI. See what they did there.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
So it's reportedly that, according to this article I'm reading here, reportedly the UK's first AI employee and the world's first AI software developer is now available for hire. So she has a career path. She's a software developer. You can hire it into your organisation. So Avery is an autonomous AI tool developed by a software company called February. And Avery's job is to assist existing software development team. So not to come in to replace them, but to go, right, what are the things you're struggling with? How can we recruit Avery to take those work so your team can be as productive as possible, right? Avery will come in and assist the software development team by making their tasks easier, checking code, and clearing any backlogs.
Oh, that's great.
So it's more of a capacity thing, right? Like, why aren't we achieving optimal productivity? How can we do that? Do we recruit new people? But does that not have a healthy lifespan for that job? Because it's ebbing and flowing of productivity, right? Or do we have a solution that we buy in, but it's almost treated as part of the team?
I was going to say, it's a really interesting spin on it, isn't it? Because we as a business, talk endlessly about ways in which businesses can automate tasks through, software and different solutions to make their employees' work life just that little bit easier. And this is an interesting spin on it in that it's, as you say, it's become a personified concept. Yeah. So rather than seeing it as a solution, you're seeing it almost as effectively as a person, as an employee.
Well, that's what I find most interesting about this.
Taking the rubbish workload.
Yeah.
Leaving the fun stuff
we don't
to
feel
the
feel bad about giving Avery the rubbish jobs because they're not a human being.
They're not sentient.
They're not sentient. Well, not yet.
Let's not say that. That's a bit scary, isn't it? It's
so
a scary thought.
Avery has been fully personified as an employee, right? With ChatGPT generated CV.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah, right. They're talking to each other. And an AI drawn portrait. And even a LinkedIn account. I actually clicked on the LinkedIn account and it didn't work for me.
Oh, no.
But I think I know why. So apparently Avery has to go. So Avery is almost like you're working with February to buy this software, right? But actually, what they want to do is present it like Avery's a person that's an AI part of your team. Yeah. So you don't just buy Avery, you recruit Avery, right?
Okay.
So she's available for hire as a software developer. Right, so she has to. She even follows a traditional recruitment process, So yeah, right.
How's that gonna work?
Yeah. Well, so the quote in this article says that Avery is currently completing 4 technical interviews a day, right? And there are 2,000 businesses on her waiting list to have.
Wow.
So I mean, we've talked about recruitment before, and we know it's an employee's market, right? But this is ridiculous. Imagine having
She's
if
got
you
them
were
lining up.
Yeah, imagine if you were a real person and you had like, oh, there's 2,000 businesses that want my software development skills. So I'm going to do 4 interviews a day and take the pick.
You'd feel pretty gorgeous at that point, wouldn't you?
Well, what you've got here is
Pretty
Avery's
gorgeous.
like, well, actually, I can work for everyone because time isn't a concept that I understand. And I can be in 50 million places at once.
Very jealous of that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Fair play,
Quite
Avery.
jealous. Yeah,
But
fair play.
I think it's really interesting that they haven't just gone, what typically, you'll see in tech companies is here's a product, here's a piece of software, you can enroll it. It's like, well, actually, no, this is AI software, so let's make it feel like it's living. Let's make it feel like a person. Let's make it feel intelligent. Let's recruit it. Let's treat it like a person.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because I think when you think of kind of really complex software, it can be very intimidating to think about what its capabilities are.
Yeah.
And giving it a persona and giving it kind of a backstory, I think just perhaps even makes it just that little bit more accessible.
It makes it
and
accessible.
it's not quite so intimidating,
I find it slightly weird and creepy in a good way.
think?
I think it's really interesting. I love the idea that Avery has to you recruit Avery, so it's almost like she's now got a personality and she's part of the team. And it might be, I kind of like the idea that if you why stop at the recruitment process? Bring her in and take her through all your business processes. Now that's probably very unethical. And don't tell your other employees that Avery's a bot. You should just be like, no, Avery's coming in. You won't meet her. She's online a lot of the time. She doesn't like putting a camera on.
Remote worker.
Yeah,
Remote
it's just
worker.
that's her contract. And just you could probably learn a lot by having an AI bot go through all your kind of processes or try to follow your processes to understand how clear they are to someone else or how someone else interprets them. I thought that could be quite interesting. And it might highlight actually how accessible are your processes to new staff if you're very manual. Like, how can
That's
you use
very true.
how can you digitally transform your organization so technology is automating your processes for you? You can't do that if all your processes are manual, right?
Yeah.
So what software and tech do you need?
Do all of your systems talk to each other? How easy is it to pull all of that data together? How can the AI bot work within your systems?
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be the most intelligent in terms of being able to see these things.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting point to see whether we have that seamlessness across our systems to make it work.
But I do love this idea that Avery can come in. We'll recruit them and we'll send them a like, nice for you to join Avery. Looking forward to meeting you soon. I like the idea of employees getting frustrated because like Avery's not turned up to any of the in-person meetings that they've booked.
She's not very social.
She doesn't go to any of the socials, Avery. And then there's complaints in like check-ins because people are like, the only problem I have with Avery is I think she's great. She's clearly very efficient, right? But I don't really know who she is, or I just don't think she's gelling well with the team.
Just got this question mark over it.
Yeah. Who does she
not
report
vibing.
to? What's going on? Because I don't know what she's saying about me. I like the idea that like people are threatened by Avery as a person without knowing that they're AI, and so they can't make these judgments on AI first.
Oh, she's not turned up to diversity and inclusion training again.
Yeah, well, that's a problem. We'll have to. I like the idea of taking Avery through like the normal HR processes after recruitment, like check-ins. I love the idea of Avery having a problem with that. So like, right, Avery, you've come in, you know how the grading system works. We meet once a month and we give you like a rating, or at the end of the year we give you a rating. It's 1 to 5. 5's exceptional, 1's very terrible, but everyone should be 3. Performing as expected. So I'm happy to say, Avery, you're performing as expected. I like the idea of Avery going, why am I not performing above expectations? And them going, well, because everything you do we code, so you can only ever really work at expectations.
But hon, I'm an automated machine.
Yeah, I'm working for 2,000 organisations. I think I'm surpassing expectation.
Yeah. My knowledge is limitless.
Yeah, I'm clearly better than a 3. And they're actually like, well, no, sorry, Avery, because even if you do overperform, it's because we've told you to, so you can only ever meet expectations. Maybe Avery will leave. Also, here's a good question. If Avery does astounding work for a tech company, like also in any company, whether she's a software developer, and she creates something new, does that go with Avery? Is that owned by the company that owns Avery?
Is it their intellectual property?
Yeah.
I guess it would be in a contract, wouldn't it? If they're hired by the company, it's the company's intellectual property.
Yeah.
But
what
because
is,
that's written within her code and she's made that, does that mean that can be taken elsewhere because that's been generated?
I'm sure it's been looked at. But what is Avery learning that is going to benefit other companies that hire Avery? Because Avery is obviously storing. It's like we've learned with ChatGPT. She knows from what's there. If you're adding more into her world of understanding, how is she not going to use that for other people who are asking her to support their work?
And with 2,000 businesses on the waiting list, we're going to see a lot of repetition at this rate, aren't we?
Yeah. So I thought it was a really interesting topic.
So, what would a contract look like then?
I don't know.
For a bot.
Do you think it's a contract? Is it more like a supplier contract, but part of it is like maybe you have like a customer success manager or something that's like we check in with you to see how you're doing with Avery. And like the managers are like, Avery's great. I think we're seeing performance in our software team, but we're not gelling. And the customer success manager's like, well, I'm really sorry you're having a problem with Avery's personality. We'll go back to the board and we'll change the algorithm so she appears a bit more bubbly in emails.
Well, that's where ChatGPT comes in, trying to like build up her personality. It's
interesting. So I don't know, and I don't know if you recruit someone. So one thing I did learn is that the companies will pay the equivalent of a living wage to bring in Avery to the company, which I thought was interesting.
Very much will be treated like an employee.
Yeah.
So presumably that would obviously go to the software company.
Yeah.
But that's a very interesting model, isn't it? They've come up with that intelligence, and it's effectively like a subscription service in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah, but
so they're businesses are paying their living wage within their area to have this service.
And I find it really interesting that the psychology they're using is you're not bringing in software, you're bringing in a person. So you as a company have gone, this is what it costs for the living wage to bring someone in. We're going to do the equivalent. And I think the argument there is, yes, you're paying this much, but actually you're supporting your business and supporting productivity. So for the amount you're paying, you might be getting, because of the way the software works, you might be getting more than what you'd do if you had to take time to recruit a human being and develop them with their learning. I don't know. It's tricky, isn't it? Because I just think there's some question marks there. As soon as you associate this piece of software at the same value of a human being, I think there's things you can.
There's a mindfulness that you need to have, I think, in terms of what you use them for.
Yeah.
And I think kind of like what we covered at the start, if they are here to support with backlog and they are here to support with kind of the more monotonous manual jobs, then that can only be seen as a good thing. But I think for a company who decides to bring that support in, they just have to make it very clear of what the expectations are and that this isn't to be seen as a replacement, it's to be seen as an enhancement.
Yeah.
And likewise, ensuring that isn't putting other jobs into question.
Yeah.
And just being mindful of how the headcount works and things like that. So there's definitely a delicate balance to be had in terms of the messaging. And I think you could also say the same for if that was to be discussed externally as well. For a company to market the fact that they are working with Avery. Yeah. They have Avery on their books. Because it does always raise that question mark, doesn't it? Of, are you trying to replace the people within your business when that absolutely isn't going to be the case? Any business is going to be a people-led business. Yeah. Because we're the ones that come up with everything. But so we can use systems like Avery to ensure that what we want to do gets done properly and quicker. Yeah. We can't argue with the fact that they can do things a lot quicker than we can.
Yeah, and I suppose it's identifying what those are. So, the article makes a good point of actually saying that whether a task is undertaken by AI or a human, businesses still need to maintain existing standards of liability. So obviously that's taken into account. But also that whilst AI is novel and really interesting, it's unlikely to take over the kind of business market. Yeah, but the point is that it's there to support, and it's there to kind of take off the burden from current employees. So, employees constantly say, look at the reports and research we look at as well, like employees value automation, and they're glad to see investments in that because it means it removes the burden of repetitive tasks where humans could be doing other things that AI doesn't have the capability to think about yet. So
I love how you say that with such a nervousness. Yet.
Really, really interesting, and I think that the only other thing I was going to mention about this was, what do you think it means for businesses who are worried about them being perceived a certain way because they employ AI? You know what I mean? The only reason we're saying it is because there is such a stigma about it. There's not much of an understanding about its capabilities yet or its application. You'd want to be really careful about what maybe your customers think about you using automated technology and maybe the risks to their data or just generally your brand, your culture, how you want to come across, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think, as I said, it's just being very clear as to what their position is, what their role is in this, in your company and in the environment.
Yeah.
The reason in which you've made the decision to work with them. I think it's always important to create those assurances that data will be managed accordingly. Yeah. And I think that will be down to the supply relationship that you have with the parent company of Avery as well, to ensure that that's all managed appropriately. There's also the possibility that you could also limit kind of accessibility as well. Yeah. I don't know all the details of that. We'd have to get an expert in to talk about how that would work, but I'm sure that there's ways in which it could be managed where that risk can be reduced and to ensure that IP, so intellectual property, is left where it should be, especially because you have this company that is effectively going to be pushing out this service to potentially thousands of businesses. They'll need to have something like that in place. And I think it's just recreating that narrative. And that's, in massive part, this parent company's responsibility to paint this as a positive thing. Yeah. This is an enabler. This isn't to take over anything else. Yeah. That there are the relevant security proceedings in place, or however you want to call it, and it's going to revolutionize businesses and take out a lot of the manual monotony that businesses, in every element that we work in HR, in payroll, in finance, in learning, all say that is one of the biggest things that they fight with. So in software development, I know from our guys that that's very much the same thing. Yeah. So anything that can be done to help that has got to be seen as a good thing. Yeah.
Let's get us focusing on things that matter.
Exactly. Now then.
Okay. Email alert.
Email alert. So we have just had an email from assistant to the producer Tom and assistant to the producer Edie. Oh, hello. Got a new one.
Isn't it actually? It's assistant to the assistant producer Edie, which is Tom. I think.
Love you, Tom. So this is for me to talk to you about. So, seeing as Avery Ingram has to follow a traditional recruitment process, like a regular human employee, as we said, do you think these are the types of questions she would have to face?
So, okay, all right, I like this.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay, so
they sent through a few questions. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to respond
I'm ready.
As if you are Avery. Okay. So the first one is, Ms Ingram, what is your power source and how long can you operate without needing to recharge or refuel?
I appreciate that. Thank you for the question. It's good to know, actually, because I don't have to travel and I am very mechanical. I'm part of the web. I don't understand. You don't have to worry about that. I'm actually always on. I do value a healthy work-life balance, but I don't have a family life thoughts of my own. So I can pretty much churn at it 24 hours a day.
Turns out I'm actually not a sentient being.
I'm a perfect employee. I don't have feelings, wishes, or desires, and I will keep grinding on for you as long as you need.
Nerd. So what are your maintenance and upgrade requirements?
Honestly, just check in on my servers every now and then, blow the dust off. But ultimately, I mean, I value being invited to socials for work and coming into all the in-person meetings, but I will not be there. You can call me in, but I won't have my camera on.
I just appreciate the sentiment regardless.
Otherwise, just, keep that virus software up to date. I don't want to be involved in any kind of data leaks. That's your bag. That I'm not at that level. Do not blame me for anything and be like, oh, we're not sure if it's the AI bot. I'm not having that.
Keep all your tech nice. Don't get crisp crumbs on
I'm
your
not
keyboard,
a scapegoat either.
Outrageous. So, speaking of virus protection, so what virus protection are you running?
What's that one you get free when you have a laptop?
Like Norton?
No, like...
What is it?
I can't remember.
Oh, you're going way back.
Is it LimeWire?
LimeWire?
Or is that the thing you used to get music from illegally?
I was going to say...
McAfee, I'm probably McAfee, but after that Netflix documentary, I've decided that's not for me. I'm in between suppliers for my
You're
virus.
in between suppliers, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's Slightly disconcerting. Ms Ingram?
Sorry.
Okay. So, can you integrate with other systems?
Of course I can. I'm very social. I like meeting with people. I mean, ultimately, however much you want to integrate me is however much your company wants to integrate me. You're going to have to let me meet your other bots or your other tech, and we'll go out and have our socials. We'll be fine.
I'll buy him a drink first.
Yeah.
So, do we pay you, or is that the company that designed you?
So I want at least a living wage. Mm-hmm. What I do with that in my free time is up to me. I've got the whole of the internet at my disposal 24 hours a day. So that's a personal question. But yeah, if you could pay me at least a living wage.
That would be great.
Yeah, I'm not living, but I'd like to.
Okay, that's fine. I think this final question is very personal to our assistant to the producer, Tom. And it's a conversation that we have regularly off camera, and I think we could probably do a whole podcast around it. Ms Ingram, do you have any insight as to whether birds are also robots?
So I think our assistant to the producer assistant is got some conspiracy theories going here. Okay.
This is an ongoing conversation.
Okay, I don't know. Quite frankly, as an AI bot, I don't waste my time on stupid theories when I could be increasing the productivity and reducing the admin burden of the team. And quite frankly, if you were to hire me, it would be because people like your assistant producer, Tom, is not performing his work and able to get rid of these repetitive tasks because he's spending 3 hours a day Googling if birds are actually drones.
Correct response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Ingram, for your time. So that's what he's signed it off on. I think it's I mean, that actually flags a thing of like, how would this standard recruitment process actually work? Because how would these questions be answered? Yeah,
I mean, obviously we are not software developers. We don't have that understanding. No. I don't know if that's apparent. So it'd be interesting to see what example interviews exist for Avery and how businesses are kind of registering her value as an employee, but also as a piece of software they're buying. How does that interview process support the business case for this?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Sure.
So, Avery, if you are listening, I hope it's going well with the interviews. I'm sure you'll smash it. You've got the internet at your disposal, and I hope they don't keep you up too late, and I hope you get some sleep for all these interviews you've got to do. I'm very jealous.
Busy gal.
Yeah, well done. Otherwise, we'll be back next week to talk about all things digital and tech again in the world of HR, payroll, finance.
We absolutely shall.
I've been Andy.
And I've been Emma.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.